Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope everybody's safe. I'm Ken Kirschenbaum. Thanks for coming to our webinar. Today we have a real celebrity presenting, Peter Goldring. He's a fire alarm expert, and he's got a presentation waiting for you. And of course, we'll take questions all along. You'll just type them in for me, and I'll be happy to relay them to Peter. We hope you learn a lot. And if you have any questions, please contact Peter, not me. I don't have answers for you. The only answer I have for you is a fire all-in-one, if it's a fire alarm, and a fire protection all-in-one, if it's fire suppression equipment. Those are the two contracts on our order forms that pertain to the fire alarm industry. So I want to thank everyone for spending some time with us. And I'm going to turn this over to Peter, who's going to tell you who he is, what he is, and why he is. Okay, Peter, it's all yours. Go ahead, Peter. You're on.
Is my screen up?
You're up, man. Go ahead.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Ken, thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. Longtime client and a big fan of all you do for our industry, and especially all you've been doing in these difficult times to maintain a sense of normalcy. So I'm excited to jump into this topic that I think is an important one. And I think we have, in looking at the names, a wide variety of attendees, some of whom I recognize, some I don't. I think there are some people here that are my peers at NICET level 4. I think there are some that probably are interested in exploring certification, either for themselves, for their business, and to share it with their employees. Maybe they're thinking about getting into specific geographic areas where there are requirements. So we're going to touch on a lot of different things, and some of these things I'm going to try to move pretty quickly through a lot of material, just because it may not pertain to everybody here, and I want to leave lots of time for Q&A as we move to the finish. So with that, me real quick. So 36 years of experience in the industry. My family started in 1923. I'm third generation. Delighted to say my son Harry is going to be starting up in the business, and he represents generation 4, so real proud about that. I am NICET level 4. I started my journey in 2016 with level 1, and in 2018 I attained level 4. I'm currently a license holder in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Florida for burglar, fire alarm, locksmith, private investigations in New York. And I hold FDNY certificates of fitness in service inspection, smoke detectors, ARCs, in-building amplifiers, and I'm an approved expediter in New York City. In addition, I sit on AFAA, the Automatic Fire Alarm Association Standards Committee. They feed standards to UL and NFPA. I'm a 26-year dealer of Gamewell FCI, an engineered manufacturer. Largest projects for them have included Fordham, Columbia, some high-rise buildings in New York City, and interestingly, the largest residence in the United States, a fire alarm system for the largest residence in the continental US. I'm currently a Potter IPA dealer. That's their engineered line. I have a retail installing business called Goldring Protection that does intrusion, fire alarm access control, video surveillance, intercoms, locks, and private investigations, and a consulting practice that bears my name that does expert witness service. I serve as a licensed qualifier, operations, technical, financial consulting, software and vendor selection and implementation, as well as evaluation services and security assessment services for private users. So there's a lot of mystery for the people that really haven't taken time to get familiar with it, or maybe don't have colleagues that have the certification. So I figured I'd take a couple seconds and just kind of square up what is NICET, who is NICET, where do they fit into the ecosystem. So NICET is part of the NSPE. Well, that explains everything, right? They're part of the National Society of Professional Engineers. It was started in the 1920s. Why? To promote and protect the reputation of licensed professional engineers. From NICET's website, they will tell you their vision is to be a global leader in providing recognition of qualified technology professionals who reliably apply engineering principles and practices for the benefit and safety of the public. Their mission is to promote excellence in engineering technologies globally through certification and related services. So it's not an engineering degree by any means. It's not an engineering license by any means. And they'll further explain on their site that an engineering technician or technologist is somebody who typically works under the supervision or control of a licensed engineer. So this slide right here is off of the NICET page. Throughout this presentation, I pulled a lot of information from NICET. Their website's gotten a lot better over the past bunch of years. My only critique would be it's sometimes hard to find and hard to navigate to certain things. So if anybody wants a copy of this presentation or wants some links afterwards, just shoot me an email. My email address is at the end of the presentation, and I'd be happy to share what I think is a bunch of information that might be a little bit time consuming to get in one shot. So NICET isn't a million different things, and you're looking at this screen. This is pretty much it. It's fire alarms, including fire alarm systems, water-based systems, sprinkler systems, that is, special hazard systems, intricate systems that protect special exposures, a very uncommon designation, video security systems designer and video security systems technician, and a relatively new one, the electrical power testing. But what really has been one of NICET's core certifications for a bunch of years are the top two, and people don't really recognize this one so much. And that's the biggest one. The second one, highway construction inspection. If you've noticed that roads have gotten better in the last decade, 15 years, this is why. Similar to what NICET does in fire alarms that we'll talk about today, they do for the highway construction industry to make sure roads are being built consistently and to standards. So if you're driving around on a good road, chances are pretty good a NICET certified engineer was involved with the project. So the next magic question is who uses NICET and why would I bother to get it? So here's a list, and it's not quite up to date. So there are 22 states and the GSA here in front of you. It's actually 24 states at this point. And if you see there in the third column, New York City is particularly the fire department of the city of New York, the FDNY. So just to give you a personal share of what NICET's done for me or how it's made my life easier. Number one, in the state of Florida, it eliminated the need for an additional exam, and there are quite a few exams to obtain a Florida license. In Philadelphia, I was able to get my Philly fire inspector license online with simply showing a copy of my NICET 2. And in New York City and the FDNY for their certificates of fitness S97, 98, and 78, which are inspection and testing, smoke detector maintenance. It eliminates the need to go in for an exam at all. So you do get certainly benefits in terms of eliminating the need to travel for exams or buy books for exams or waste your time sitting for exams. So there's benefit there. And I would say in the last several years, in a number of jurisdictions that I work in, particularly in the great state of New Jersey, the NICET certification is becoming much, much more meaningful in lots of jurisdictions where I've been able to get special approvals very quickly because it creates a trust level between me and the authority having jurisdiction. So that's definitely a factor.
Peter, can I ask you a couple of questions to just clear up in my own mind? Again, I apologize to everybody if it's too simplistic of a question, but NICET, first of all, it's a private organization, correct?
It's a private organization that is a wholly owned part of the National Society of Professional Engineers.
Right. But it doesn't confer any license. It doesn't confer any degree. So it's a private company. I guess unlike UL, for example, what UL can issue a UL certificate or a UL listing. You could be UL listed.
Right.
And here NICET has different categories that it issues, 1 through 4 for its categories.
Well, let's stop there for a second, because I think that's a good parallel. UL is to the company, where a company is UL listed and a company meets UL criteria, and the employees don't really have to do anything. They just have to know how to apply the standard, and be tested on it on an annual basis. NICET is to the employee.
Okay, but it's a private company, and it essentially does training and then certifies the individual as having attained a certain level of knowledge, right? That's
So
what
far doing great. The only clarification would be they don't actually do the training. So as we go into the next couple of slides, we'll talk about where you can actually obtain the training and how you go through the certification process.
But so you have this private company, NICET, which is part of the engineering society, which will confer a certain level, acknowledge certain levels of training that someone has, and issue them a certificate, NICET levels 1 through 4, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now,
Which you're looking at on this current slide.
right. Now the none of these different levels give you any kind of degree. You're not a bachelor degree or master's degree or a PhD degree. None of these levels give you a license to perform any services, right? There's no license.
Not a license per se.
No, wait, I'm gonna get there,
Yep,
but let's
yep.
go step by step. But
Okay.
so NICET does not issue you any licenses.
Correct.
But so what does it do for you? Then the next answer is that NICET is recognized by governmental authorities, AHJs, authorities having jurisdiction on whatever levels, as certifying that people who have these levels have attained certain levels of knowledge, and therefore these AHJs are willing to either license somebody to do something or relax testing requirements or application requirements, and permits them to get into the fire alarm industry because they have these certain levels of training. Is that correct so far?
I think you did a very good job of explaining that. And the only thing I would add a little bit of depth to is, in addition to giving the AHJ that comfort level, which is certainly what it's doing. If we go back a bunch of years, if we have any old timers in the room, when fire alarms really started to become more of a requirement, more ubiquitous in building requirements, where things had to be filed. When I was a kid and we started out, a system was drawn by an engineer, an architect, maybe even just an employee of the business. And the inspection process, really only came around in the late 80s, early 90s. One thing I think really that NICET has done, and this is, I think, an important thing, is in those days, there was this animosity between the AHJ and the alarm company or the installer, where it would be, oh, I have to get this inspection. I'm going to have to deal with this inspector, and the inspector is, got a bad reputation. What NICET's done is it's created this level of understanding by that inspector that, hey, I'm not dealing with somebody here who's fly by night, who's done 2 systems, who has no idea what he's doing, and I have to really put out my net to enforce this. Which is not to say inspections, aren't thorough and proper. Of course they are, but the change is both on both sides of the table. somebody who's NICET certified and has expertise walks into that meeting without feeling like they're going to be assaulted by the inspector. I think that's a
Okay, so it's clear that that NICET levels confer a certain level of recognition and acknowledgement that the AHJs recognize, and so that's one thing it does. But I think there's even more to it than that, because I think that there might be some AHJs out there. Of course, that's the broadest term I could come up with, really, that would require some level of NICET in order for someone to get licensed.
Absolutely.
And I think the reason for that is that the AHJ basically is adopting the NICET level certification as sufficient for their licensing requirement. As a matter of fact, that's the way they're defining their licensing requirement.
Absolutely. And I think the most significant example of that is FDNY, where you can't touch a fire alarm panel if you don't have NICET 2. Even the technician you send out to service the system has to have level 2.
Okay, so not NICET isn't just some certificate that you can stick on your wall and be proud of. NICET is actually something that furthers your career and your ability to conduct business in the fire alarm industry. And that's what makes it so essential if you want to be in the fire alarm industry.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to say that it doesn't just further the employee, it furthers the company. And I think companies that embrace and adopt NICET and support their employees, it's very common for the middle-sized companies and larger companies to pay the cost, to bear the cost of training for NICET, because you're furthering your employees' knowledge base, you're developing somebody that's more articulate and consistent, and you're making your workforce more consistent. So I think the benefits for the employee and the employer are just as great.
I'm going to let you get back to your PowerPoint to explain the different levels now.
Jump back in as you wish. So here I've just cleared up some of the nomenclature because a lot of people don't understand, what's a 1, what's a 4, what's a set, what's a this. So real simply, level 1 is a TT, a technician trainee. TT is what you put after your name on a business card if you wish. The second level is AET, Associate Engineering Technician. Third, ET, Engineering Technician, and you see a pattern here with how the nomenclature changes as you move up. And then finally, level 4, SET, a Senior Engineering Technician. And basically, it's simply six months of experience, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. That's the main break point between levels 1 through level 4. So you could be a whiz kid with all the experience in your brain and all the training and all the expertise and even an engineering degree from a college and not be a NICET level 4 until you've attained 10 years of experience in the industry. Any level of technician, once you have any certification, you can refer to yourself as a certified engineering technician or a CT. So let's expand a little bit about what differentiates 1 through 4, and this will, I think, flesh out a little bit the beginning of kind of what kind of a commitment you have to make to getting NICET certified. So in every level, there's going to be testing. Testing takes place at a Pearson facility. Anybody who's ever taken a state license or other professional licenses is probably familiar with Pearson. You walk into a place, they frisk you, you leave all your keys and money and wallet and everything in a locker, and you go into a room and you sit in front of a computer and they administer a standardized test. So as you go from the TT level, level 1, 83 questions, 110 minutes, 109 minutes for AET, 109 questions rather for AET, all the way up to senior technician, 116, 290. So ultimately, to do all 4 levels, you're taking 420 questions and 12 hours of exams. The engineering exam for New York State is a 5-hour test. The bar exam in New York is currently 6 hours. And if you take the medical boards in New York, it's 16 hours over 2 days. So it's a lot of time in front of a computer screen, sitting there with books. Skill sets. What is each level? of technician going to be doing. So it's a little more complicated than this, and the website talks to this a little more. I didn't use the actual website's page because it was just too wordy. But simply put, your trainee is going to be mounting and terminating peripherals, cutting wires and attaching them, installing cable, recognizing safety on the job, and doing some very basic testing. As we move to level 2, we're going to develop some work plans. We're going to learn how to commission a system and correct some basic impairments. Your level 3 technician is going to begin overseeing commissioning. He's going to be preparing and approving shop drawings and really beginning to evolve into a supervisory management level position. And finally, the senior engineering technician should be able to manage and oversee, budget, train, and resolve complex systems, complex issues, complex scenarios, anything that's that's on a fire alarm system that is going to really take some thought and some research. As far as the requirements to get to these levels in terms of what you're going to be submitting, levels 1, level 2, and 3, you're going to submit an application, a work history form, some verification forms, recommendation from somebody who's either a equal to or greater than level of certification, or an AHJ, as well as a major project write-up when you go for level 4, and I'll expand on that in the next couple of slides. So let's take a minute and talk about how to prepare for and how to take the test. So it's important to understand that NICET tests are tests of test taking. You're not going out and showing that you've read all these books and memorized them. You're showing that you know how to use these books. The tabs on them show, all the different sections, that you know which book is which, and that you know how to find the information. This is like a lot of state licensing tests for anybody who's taken those types of tests. So you have a couple of choices. You can take a preparation class, either in person or online. And right now, in current circumstances, online classes are very popular. You can not take a preparation class. I don't recommend not taking one. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll give a couple of different links for some of the majors that are out there. We can talk a little bit about in the Q&A. My experience as an executive who's had employees take training, and I've paid for training, and I've got some feelings of what works and what doesn't. But basically, as I alluded to with the books here, it's an open book test. Well, it's a lot of open books. So, you're walking into this exam with NFPA 70, electrical code. You're walking into the exam with 72. You walk into the exam with International Building Code, Life Safety 101, and NISCALA, the contractor's manual. And again, if you've taken a state licensing test, you're familiar with NISCALA. So there's not a question on the tests that isn't in these books. The trick is knowing how to flip to the right page, find the right paragraph, double check, and put your answer down. Now, I've taken all 4. I've coached several people who've taken 3 out of the 4. I haven't made a NICET 4 yet, but I've made 1s, 2s, and 3s. And everybody's a little bit different. There are people who are good at memorizing things, and the inclination is to start saying, well, you know what, I know this off the top of my head. I know this code, but there's something you got to pay attention to. And that's, I don't know if this is clear on the screen, but this says 2019 is this version of NFPA 72. Depending on the version that is in play when you're taking NICET, the code might have changed. So it's really essential to use the book and ascertain the information. Even if you have it in your head and it's memorized, it's really, really important to use the books. It's a test of taking tests. It's not a test of knowing the material. So let's talk about the commitment financial. So here I've kind of taken a broad stroke of some different options and some different requirements. So again, those preparation classes are optional. They tend to range in price from $795 to $995 for the online or classroom version. So $795 is the online, $995 is the classroom. The actual cost of the application for the exams ranges from $220 to $390. Your books are going to cost another $600, $700. So you're looking at a commitment of about $4,000 to go from NICET 1 to NICET 4 and to take the preparation classes. And I say there the tabs, don't forget the tabs. If you buy the books and you don't buy the tabs, you're doing yourself a terrible disservice, because the time it takes, these are timed exams, and the time it takes to find the page, if you don't have those tabs, you would really be doing yourself a disservice. And you can't just run out to Staples and buy tabs. They have to be permanently attached. So for about 30 bucks, you get everything you need, and an hour of stick and paste. You've got all your books marked up the way you need them. If you should happen to fail by chance, and just for a little information, I passed 1, I passed 3 and 4, and I failed 2 and had to take it again. So there's no real rhyme or reason to why you might pass or fail one or the other. They do contain different material, and they do change pretty frequently. And even if somebody's told you, well, I just took it, here's what was on it, you may not be encountering the same material. But if you do fail, you wait 30 days, you pay again, and you get 3 tries in a 12-month span.
Well, Peter, one of the things that I don't want you to miss it is that you can't necessarily apply for NICET 1, 2, 3, or 4 unless you put your time in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna hit on that.
If you're going from 1 to 4, that means you've been in this business for 10 years or more.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might be applying on for 1 and then wait, and then 2 and then 3. So would you recommend that somebody maybe starting out or deciding to get involved in fire, and they've only got the number of years required for 1 or for 2, that they go ahead and get that, and before they wait 10 years to go all the way to 4?
Well, they do let you take the tests without having the experience, but no, I wouldn't recommend doing it broken up. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes as we go through some of the paperwork. But that's a great question. Here I just pulled out so people could get a feel for what the exam looks like, and kind of what a sample question looks like. In a protected premises operation of a disconnected switch of the releasing agent suppression system or a disabled function shall cause a supervisory signal at the blank. So anybody who deals in suppression systems probably knows the answer is A. And of course, oh, look at that, I was right. The answer is A. And then it goes ahead and cites chapter and verse in my NFPA 72 that I would have flipped to the right section, and there would be the answer right there. So again, it's a test of knowing which book, knowing which tab, and knowing how to scan through and find the answer that you need to get. Now, the preparation classes spend an awful lot of time in teaching this skill. And what I would say is, for some people, and some people that I've coached, this skill comes very easily, and some need work and help to get better at this. So we've taken our test and we've passed our test. And Ken, we're going to go back. We're going to circle back a little bit and talk about the different levels, but I just want to kind of go through the, hey, I finished the test. And by the way, when you finish the test, one merciful thing they do is when you walk out of the room at Pearson, they hand you a printout and it says congratulations, or it says sorry, try again harder next time. And if it does say try again next time, it'll give you some clues of what areas you might not have done so well. One thing I'll interject before I jump into the process of once you pass. What I did after I finished each of my exams, I'll just see if I have a book here that I used for an exam, knowing that other people within my organization would be taking the tests. And of course, I can't so easily find one. I took the books after I finished the exam, and there happened to be a Starbucks nearby, and I sat down at a table. I took all the books and I took my highlighter and I highlighted all the questions that were on the exam that I remembered. I highlighted all the ones that I found were challenging, You're not allowed to bring a highlighter into the room. You can't highlight as you go, but they have no issue with you doing it after the fact. And they have no issue with you bringing a book that is highlighted into the exam. So there is some value to doing that. And I would highly recommend anybody taking a test in any capacity where they let you bring in a highlighted book. By all means, do that. So every level 1 through 4, you're going to fill out some paperwork. And just as the tests are a test of taking the NICET test, the applications are a test of doing what NICET tells you to do. I tripped up once or twice myself. People I've coached have tripped up once or twice, and I've saved people from tripping up, and I've heard horror stories from people tripping up, and lots of people on the phone probably have heard similar stories where, oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult. It really isn't hard. If you read what they tell you to do, and if you do exactly what they tell you to do, you're in good shape. The frustration sometimes is if you don't do what they ask for, they're going to send your nice package back to you and say, well, I need this, and you got to wait another 3 or 4 weeks or month plus for it to get reviewed again before they can tell you you did something else wrong. So it's real important to take the time and really go through and make sure you have the information that they're asking for. And of course, this is one service that in my consulting practice I do provide, where I act as your shotgun passenger in the car, that I'm riding along with you and making sure every step of the way be doing what needs to be done, where you don't have to lose valuable time. So page 1 of the application is just simple. What's your name, where do you live, easy stuff. The second part of the application is called the Subfield Technical Area, STA. And what this is it's going to break down your jobs that you're going to prove to NICET you have the years of experience. And they're going to look for you to break down, if you notice there where it says fire alarm systems 50%, at this particular employer, 50% of my job was fire alarms, some other percentage was other low voltage, some other percentage was other stuff. So they just want you to total to 100% and show employer by employer what you did. And this is a very important thing from the beginning to get right, because this is a cumulative document. This will follow you from 1 to 4. And if you don't show your timeline accurately and honestly, that's what the investigators are looking for when they're reviewing these forms. They're looking for omissions or mistakes, and they're going to send it back to you saying, hey, you said you had this much experience here, and when you resubmitted your level 2, that number changed. Why did that change? For each STA, for each area, just like that fire alarm, you'll see the letters FA there. They want to have a concise, very specific, what did you do, where did you do it, how many people did you supervise, and it's going to be for each employer and for each of those subject areas. The next thing that'll accompany levels 1 and 2, 3, and 4 is performance measures. They want somebody who's a supervisor, or if you are a company owner, somebody who you, maybe an engineer who you work with, or an AHJ, just to initial and say, yes, you have all of the requisite skills that apply to each of the areas. As you get to levels 3 and 4, they're going to look for a personal recommendation. My personal recommendation for level 4 was Jeffrey's Wern, I'm honored to say, a great industry legend. And Jeff's actually got kicked back because he typed it and he just signed it. Or I think I typed it, I typed the basic information, he typed information on it, and they kicked it back and said, nope, it's got to be handwritten. It's got to be from the reviewer, handwritten. So that got kicked back. And by the way, his claim to fame, Jeff's claim to fame, is he actually did, and this touched on what you asked, Ken, Jeff did levels 1 through 4 in 1 year because he had the 10 years of experience. So he was able to just jump through all 4 tests very quickly. Then for a level 5, and this is one of the most mysterious and asked about things, and I'm in a Facebook page of NICET people and people who aren't NICET yet, or people who are moving into level 4, and they ask about this one all the time. You have to write a write-up about a major project, a major fire alarm system that you've done, and if you haven't done a major one, you have to write up about several smaller ones to show that you have senior level experience. This screen that you're seeing right here, this page is right off the application. It tells you exactly what they're looking for. It's so clear and so easy. If you just go line by line and highlight it, tick it off, whatever you like doing. And we go a little deeper down. It should address, this, that. It should be, describe your role, tell us everything. If you do this just like this, you don't need to have pretty pictures. You don't need to have, double space and clean whatever. If you do everything they ask, it's going to get approved. George Bish, who's another pretty well-known guy who has lots of licenses and certifications, he holds the claim to fame. He did this in one page, double-spaced in a big font, and got approved. Mine was about 4 pages, I think. Yeah, 4 pages. So not challenging. If you do what they say, if you don't do what they say, it is going to get kicked back to you. You obtain your certification. What does NICET require of you? Well, they require CPD, continuing education, for continuing professional development. The new website, their updated website, makes this so easy. This is my page. I'm logged into me. It tells me how many hours I have to show them, what I have to do. It's very, very simple. In the older days, you had to go through a piece of paper and fill it out. It was very easy to make mistakes. I actually did some updating on this morning, and it took me about 2 minutes to do what I would have spent a half an hour doing. So it's pretty effortless for continuing education to keep up to date. And they're also very liberal with what they'll let you to do in terms of proving continuing education. Just me presenting this webinar today qualifies me for like 10 points of my 90 to renew. So they're very, very liberal with what they let you do. When you complete everything, you get your certificate in the mail. Well, actually, no, you don't get it in the mail anymore. They send you an electronic link, but you can print out your certificate, you get a wallet card, and you are certified. We talked about some additional resources. So I mentioned the Facebook page, tremendous. It's a great group. I hope some of the guys and girls who are on this group that I'm participating in every day are here. I put an invitation out this morning. If it's your first time getting familiar with Ken, Ken is an amazing industry resource, and his contracts are the gold standard. If you're ever going into business for yourself, or you're in business for yourself, you should be using his contracts and using his concierge service. So some other resources, the National Training Center, NTC. I'm sure lots of people get their postcards in the mail, get their emails. I personally put several people through, employees through National Training Center, and had very good experiences. They do a level 1, level 2 class, a level 3, level 4 class. They typically do 1 day on 1, 1 day on 2, and then 1 day on 3, 1 day on 4. And Ken, to your point earlier, would I recommend doing 1 and 2 together? Yeah, I would. And for somebody who's iffy, I would say even do 1 and 2 again before you take 2. 3 and 4, once you've taken 1 and 2 and you understand the test of taking tests, I personally did an online version that used to be available where you can just take tests over and over, and I was successful with that. But it's a personal thing, and again, anybody who would like some more one-on-one information on that, shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to just spend some time with you and see if it's a fit to help you beyond just a quick conversation. If it is, I'd be delighted to do that. So NTC offers the online classroom version. They also sell books. Their prices are pretty reasonable. In addition, there's another resource called mycontractorexam.com. Some of their books are a little bit less expensive. So if you're looking to save a couple of dollars, you might check out mycontractorexam.com. And of course, consider me a resource. My contact information will be at the end. Hire me to ride shotgun with you and help you navigate the process and give you feedback before you have to send stuff in and have it rejected and sent back to you. And before we go to Q&A, a special offer courtesy of Ken, and thanks for bringing me on for this webinar. And the first 3 people that email me after we're finished, peter@pmgoldring.com, 5 hours of complimentary coaching. Whether you don't have certification yet 1 going to 2, 2 going to 3, 3 going to 4, whatever the case may be. 5 hours of my time to help you and make sure you don't fall over a hurdle. I'm very big on education. I love watching people better themselves, and I'm passionate about that. I'm active with it in the Security Industry Association on their executive council. So I really do enjoy doing it, and I would be happy to help anybody here today. So thanks for your time, and I give it back to Ken for Q&A.
All right, so here's a couple of questions that came in. NICET set a standard that you have met as opposed to nothing and applies mainly to the service techs. I'm not sure what that means. NICET set a standard that you have met as opposed to nothing, meaning no standard. It applies many to the service techs. I'm not sure what this means.
But I think I would take that as it's a certification for the individual, whether that individual is the owner of the company, whether he's the service manager, installation manager, whether he's the tech in the field. You know, on that Facebook page, there's always a comment here or a comment there. Oh, I've been doing this 30 years. I don't need that. You know, what am I going to get from this? Well, look, there are people that aren't comfortable taking tests. I get it. You know, I wasn't much of a student as a kid, and I became, I guess, a better test taker as I got older. And I guess there are people who didn't or don't like tests and who, you know, resent it. But I can say in the last 5 years that I've been really serious about this, I was always good at fire alarms. I could always service a fire alarm, install one, you know, design one, sell one. It really upped my game, and it made me.
All right. This same person points out that you can get the New York City S98 if you without the NICET qualification, which I don't know whether that's true or not. Maybe you can
get it, but the qualification eliminates the need to have to take the test.
Right, and New York City is one place. This webinar is presented to people throughout the United States. So people that want to focus just on New York City, talk to de Blasio for all your problems. I can't help you with that. What does riding shotgun service include? Approximately, what is the cost? So let me first get this straight. One of the things that you're offering, Peter, is that you will help coach people and guide them through the educational process and the testing process.
Yep.
So that they can get through their NICET level certifications. Okay. Yep. I suppose I shouldn't say this on a recorded thing, but you're not offering to take the test. That's off the table.
I'm not offering legal advice. I'm not offering to take the test.
Forget legal advice. I offer the legal advice, but you're not offering to take the test.
I'm offering the experience of somebody who has been through the process, somebody who's passionate about seeing other people get certified. I don't charge my normal consulting or expert witness rates. I charge a discounted.
All right. What is your NICET coaching service cost somebody? It's by the hour, I assume.
It's by the hour. It depends on the person. But the first hour on the phone with anybody is free to determine what level they're at and where they want to go. And it is certainly economical. There's a package that's under $500, and they range in price. If a company, I'm working with one company with 3 individuals that are looking to attain certain levels, and in that case, it's a fixed cost per individual, unless they need additional help or have difficulty meeting goals. I think one thing about the riding shotgun program that's important is a lot of my peers who have discussed this with vendors, even in other accreditations, there's this phenomenon where, oh, I want to get this, and you write the check for, you take the first class, you write the check for the test, and you don't take the test. You get lazy, you get busy, whatever it is. I'm somebody to call you and say, hey, dude, why aren't you taking this thing? Let's get you scheduled. Let's get you there and give you a little push. And it's, kind of like almost a little corporate coaching to push you through the process and hopefully allay any fear or apprehension where you're going to walk into that room comfortable and confident and, not be weird doing it.
So, but I'm sure you get an hourly rate. Maybe you don't want to, reveal it during this webinar. Maybe you do.
It's an hourly rate, and it slides depending on the size of the company and how many employees are involved. But anybody who sends me an email, I'd be happy to,
Okay.
Get you an upper
I guess there's too many competitors on here. You don't want to disclose dollars. So here's a question that I think relates to what I asked, and it didn't clear it up enough. So they asked, is it better to take level 1 and 2 together? So, but before you answer that, which you did answer before, is you have to have a certain amount of time
Yes.
before you can take.
Let's assume you have the 5 years.
No. But let's assume they don't. That's
Okay.
that's the point.
Well, then that's an easy answer. If you don't have the 5 years, my personal recommendation for most of people, without sitting and talking to somebody and understanding how they take a test and how they deal with written material, I would say if you're going to take a class, if you're going to take, let's say, the NTC class, take 1 and 2. Be exposed to 2, and go take the 1 test. Pass the 1 test, because most people pass the 1 test.
Is that the same amount of time? Is that 1 and 2 is the same time?
They almost everybody that offers the classes, unless there's somebody out there that does it online a different way, everybody who does it is going to offer 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 usually.
Wait. Before you can take 1, how much time do you have to have as a technician?
6 months.
And before you take
one is very, 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 very.
Before you take 2, how much time do you have to have?
You have to have 2 years.
Okay, so let's talk about 1.
Yep.
You're out there, you started, you got 6 months into this thing. The only level you qualify for at this point is level 1.
Right.
Should they take level 1? That's all they can qualify for. Or do they sit back and wait 2 years to take level 2?
Well, I think take level 1, and I think as the employer, the employee is showing me that they've got the initiative. They want to get started. They want to get this knowledge base and fall in line consistently with other employees to that level. So to me, a NICET 1 is somebody who's going from a helper, a green helper, to begin to show that he's entering the track of becoming a senior technician.
Now a level 1 wouldn't probably get you any benefit with an AHJ, right?
Nothing.
How far up in levels would you have to go before you gain some benefit from an AHJ?
NICET 2. 2 is the minimum.
Okay, so 2. Now, but that you need 2 years.
Yes.
So, but so to answer the question I asked you before, you would recommend as soon as you can qualify for a level, you should take that level. There's no reason to say to somebody, look, you're only out 6 months. You're only out 2 years. You might as well wait till you're out 5 years so you can go to level 3. You want them to take whatever they're able to qualify for and progress that way.
Yeah.
That's the recommendation.
Absolutely.
That's good. Can you go back to the previous? Oh, can you go back to a previous slide? I'm not sure which slide they wanted, so I can't help you with that. They wanted websites.
Whoever wants those sites, shoot me an email and I will send them. pmgoldring.com. I'll send you my deck.
And this will be recorded and posted on my website also. So if you need to watch it again, you'll have it. I have the book 2017 NICET Fire Alarm Systems Level 1 and 2 Study Guide. Is this useful?
Yeah, absolutely. It's useful if you are a book learner, if you're sitting on an airplane, if you like curling up with a book in the corner. It's written by, that's an NTC book. It's a good book. It's sitting on my bookshelf behind me. When I did 1 and 2, and I was in my learn how to take the test mode, I used NTC's online version, which was basically that book presented online, where I could see the test in front of me, see the question in front of me, put an answer in, get instant feedback. You were right, you were wrong. Here's what, if I was wrong, here's why I was wrong. From my style of learning, I found that worked best, but lots of people like reading books. It's a good book, and NTC is certainly top-notch in what they do.
Okay. Can a new employee, I guess someone with 0 experience, take a test and get certified for just testing?
Well, I mean, you can take the test. Anybody, Ken, you could go take the test. There's nothing to stop you from taking one. what they're going to want to see is that after you've taken pass one, before you submit that application, you've obtained 6 months of experience. Now, there's nothing to say you couldn't go out, take the test, pass it, and walk into, I don't know, see one of the Kleinmans at AFA and say, hey, I just passed my one. I want to have a career here. And maybe that would be an impetus for them to say, hey, great, like your Moxie, you can start next week, get 6 months, and get to level one.
Okay, so you can't just take a test, and there's nothing below level one then that requires 6 months that would allow you to do testing only.
Correct.
Okay. Will the PowerPoint be available after the webinar? Not right after, but it'll be up and posted within a day or so. You'll have this PowerPoint, and you can always contact Peter directly at Peter Goldring.
Peter at pmgoldring.com.
Peter at Goldring.
pmgoldring.com.
Peter Goldring dot what?
Peter at pmgoldring.com.
Okay, Peter at pmgoldring.com. So you can email him, and his phone number is also in the notice, the announcement of the webinar, by the way, so you can also call him, and he'll be very happy to take your call and give you information and everything else. Well, unless we get some more questions, our hour is just about up, and anybody, there's a bunch of experts on here. Anybody want to contribute anything?
Peer review, love that.
Even be unmuted if anyone has anything to say. I'd be more than happy to let you speak to the crowd. If you think you have something that should be covered that hasn't been, but you need to let me know ASAP, because I didn't have lunch yet. I'm ready to sign off. NICET is a must in my county. Okay, so what that means is that your AHJ in that county has adopted the NICET level as its standard for issuing whatever the license or whatever it is they require, I guess, right?
I'm just curious if our question asker is still in front of his keyboard. Was your state on the slide, if you happen to notice, of people that accept NICET? That slide tends to be a little out of date. I'm always curious if there are other states or counties that I don't know about.
What county is it? He's in Maryland.
Yeah, I don't have to go back and look at it. I don't think Maryland's on that list. So that's
he's saying it's for fire submittal. I'm wondering if he means the submission of plans and specifications.
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually a great question, and that's a great point. Just to throw it out real quick, there are myriad AHJs out there that will let a NICET 3 or a NICET 4 submit what an engineer, what a PE in most states would be required to submit. You can actually act as an engineer in a number of jurisdictions. So, if you're in a jurisdiction that allows that, and you are proficient at CAD, that's a really, really good thing.
Actually, I'm based in New York, and so New York, I think, is one of the few states that requires that plans and specifications for a fire alarm system be submitted only by a licensed engineer or architect.
Yeah, it's fairly common. I mean, it's common even in New Jersey, but there just happen to be some smaller communities where the fire subcode official will accept from a NICET certified.
Well, you're primarily East Coast, Peter, so I'll excuse you for this. But I can tell you that from my experience, most of the country, I think, accepts plans and specs prepared by the alarm company.
Yes.
I'm not sure what level of experience the alarm company needs to have, but I get that question all the time, because the fire all-in-one starts with that the system will be installed in accordance with plans and specifications filed by. And the alarm, I get a lot of calls from alarm company, goes, who goes in here? Do we go in here? And I say, well, yeah, but if you're the one that's submitting the plans, yes, you go in there. Otherwise it needs to be the like I said, in New York, the engineer or the architect, but a lot of places it's the alarm company. But you know, a lot of people that do alarm work in New York City think that's the only place that fire alarms are installed, and that's all they want to talk about is New York City. Most of the country's not New York City, folks, and the fire alarms are much more relaxed in other areas. I don't know any areas where it's more stringent and more regulated. I'm sure there are plenty of cities where that's the case, but I have clients call me up and I don't know if I believe them, but they tell me no fire alarm requirements, none. Just put whatever you want in. There are no standards. There are no requirements. So I always question them, but they're in some small rural area, and that's what we're told. Okay. Okay. I can't do my fire inspections without level 3. Again, that's in Maryland. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
guessing it's probably like a Prince George County or somewhere like that. Yeah, look, I mean, as fire alarm regulations started, what's more stringent than New York City? Virginia. There are authorities in Virginia that, Fairfax was the first one that I ever got burned by in the 1990s, where, they were by the book. They make New York City look easy.
Well, someone here is also saying Florida is more stringent.
Yeah, Florida's not so easy.
All of Florida or parts of Florida?
Florida's a state license.
Oh, a state line. Oh, so it's the license that's. What about? But is a fire alarm system regulated by the state or by the county?
Well, the county regulates based on the state standard. So Florida's pretty consistent statewide. Miami might have some stricter regulations, but
when we say stricter regulations, are you saying that the fire alarm design is harder, or the enforcement is more readily enforced, or that's really what you're talking about?
Well, it depends on what book the AHJ is going by, which standard have they adopted. So if they're going by 2019, it's going to be more stringent than 2013. There's lots of parts of the country that are still going on 2013. There's lots that are going on 2019. So that alone is going to contribute to what is required. But look, a system that's code compliant, whether it's in Massachusetts, New York City, or Florida, is going to look fairly similar. New York City is going to have some minor isms about how it operates and what it looks like, and how the sounders work and where the sounders go and what they do. But the base systems are more or less the same when they're required.
Would you say that NICET, I don't want to use the word relies, but is in concert with NFPA?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, I mean, it's consistent with. I mean, the test is based upon NFPA. It's part of the curriculum of the test.
Is NFPA the standard for the fire alarm industry throughout the country, or are there other companies that would compete with NFPA?
No, there's no competing codes or competing standards. It's the gold standard.
So UL for example, has competition, right?
Well, ETL, I guess, is competition to UL. Maybe they were 10 years ago, not so much these days.
So UL is the gold standard, but NFPA is almost the only show in town?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we ran out of questions so far, and we just ran out of time. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank Peter again. This was a really terrific webinar, a lot of knowledge, and I hope everybody learned something, a lot, I'm sure. Make sure you contact Peter. He has a lot to offer, very generous with his time and with his knowledge. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, Peter, and goodbye, everybody else.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.